Well, hello. Welcome to the very first Silicon Synapse Show.
Indeed.
And did I pronounce that right? Synapse?
Synapse, that's cool. Yeah, that's absolutely cool.
That's good.
No,
That's
makes
good.
sense. Yeah.
Hello, I am Dave.
I am Shama.
And we decided to do this show because, well, we're almost like the same person in many ways.
Yeah, just gendered and a different race, like all of that together. But who's seeing all of that? Underneath it all.
But you're a neuroscientist, creative artist, musician, AI geek.
Yes.
And I am, but without the qualifications that you have.
That's not true. You're a true musician. You're just calling it out.
No, but when it comes to neuroscience, you're like you're a doctor and stuff.
Yeah. Like, you have to go through the paces. Not all been like, people think it's an amazing thing, but you have to go through that pace.
There we go. Now, so what about you who are joining us here? I can see we've got some stuff happening in the comments already, which is beautiful. Thank you very much. Let us know, what do you do? Are you a doctor? Are you a neuroscientist? Why are you tuning? What are you doing here?
Here we go.
Let's see. We've got there we go. This is Bill being very lovely here. Let's see. Saying looking forward to this.
Greetings from Canada.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God, Philippines as well.
Oh.
Wow, we've got the entire hemispheric representation here. The UK, we're not forgetting you.
Barcelona, New York State. Great. Greece. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you all for joining us. Now, how do we get rid of that? There we go. So we decided to get AI involved in this show in some way.
Yeah, of course.
So the titles were created by AI, and it's hit and miss when you're getting stuff done by AI. And when I sent the titles through to you, there was a bit that stuck out that you really...
What, the Silicon Synapse Show, you mean?
Yes. The AI had managed to create a Shama that wasn't a Shama.
Yeah. That was quite interesting indeed. And I was kind of going for, okay, you could play it. See what you think.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, here's one where it created a me that wasn't a me. Let's have a look at this. Who's this guy? Who's this guy here? So this was I used Runway, and it started off with an image of me there. And let's bring the circle cam in, so we're in there as well. Hello.
Hi.
And then it just suddenly jumped to this dude. I don't know who he is. And those flashing lights. It doesn't always make sense. But this is really what we've got starting there. That's you. But then suddenly you evolve. Look at this in a creepy way, and then you've only got 3 fingers.
Yeah, the nails.
And a smile, and that's not you. Who's that?
I don't know, but it's sort of uncanny valley, but it's not that canny either.
No. So it doesn't always hit the mark, but I think we managed to get it just about right. So let me put that back there. So I thought in preparation for the show that I would get ChatGPT to introduce us.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a good thing to do. Should we introduce?
Yeah, with a bit of sarcasm. Now who should we go first? You or me? Let's go for you.
Okay. Oh God,
So I will turn this down. We have to listen carefully on our end.
Okay.
But there might be a little bit of echo here. But here we go. This is a biography of Shama, written and read by ChatGPT.
All right, folks, prepare yourselves to feel wildly underaccomplished as we welcome Dr. Shama Rahman, neuroscientist, AI expert, neurodesigner, because apparently we need design for our brains. And oh yes, an artist too. I mean, who doesn't casually juggle brain science and creative strategy in their downtime? She's even taken her sitar to Antarctica, because why impress people on one continent and use your fingers off on another? Currently, she's at the University of Edinburgh as an innovation fellow, probably creating AI that's about to outsmart the rest of us. Oh, and she's one of the top 20 most inspirational women in tech. Though honestly, I'm wondering why it's not top 10. Let's give it up for the endlessly talented Dr. Shama Rahman.
Okay, apart from the fact that, you know, like most British people,
Yeah.
it couldn't pronounce Rahman.
No, it couldn't actually. It absolutely couldn't. Yeah, we need to bring in more cultural representation. You know.
So
Yeah.
So there we go. It didn't pronounce your second name correctly, but you should hear what it did to my second name at the end here.
Oh God.
So this is an introduction for me here, written and read by ChatGPT.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man who claims he's helping organizations squeeze every last drop of value from generative AI. Though, let's be honest, some of them are probably still squinting to see where that value is hiding. Mr. Dave Birss, yes, that's right. He's the guy who believes AI is basically the new industrial revolution. But thankfully, without all the soot and child labor, Dave spends his days teaching companies how not to blow up their businesses with horribly implemented AI projects. And did you know, here's a fun fact, he once trained a toaster to write poetry. I mean, sure, it wasn't good, but it was very crunchy. Anyway, let's see if he's here to finally prove humans aren't totally obsolete. Give it up for Dave.
I like the way that my second name became Dave. So
oh, did I just?
Yeah. So at the end there, it's my surname is and you're a bowl of ramen.
I'm a ramen or a chumen. But I like how it was suitably sarcastic. Did you tell it to be sarcastic? Or, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to tell it to.
You can just develop a personality of its own and suddenly be like, you know what, I'm going to talk back at you.
It knows that I like a bit of sass.
Okay, I gotcha.
Which if any of you, my Sassy Bot AI newsletter came out this morning. So you can see that on my site or LinkedIn Learning. You'll be able to see that. Great. Oh, we've got. Oh my goodness!
wow,
lots of action here in the comments. Oh, thank you all so much.
Oh, can't hear the chat.
You couldn't hear ChatGPT. Oh no!
Was that for everyone?
Oh wow. Well, I thought that was coming through there, but there we go.
Okay.
We had a problem. Which means that you might not hear the other little AI avatar that we've created here. Maybe I just need to.
Should we turn it up
turn
there?
this up here, and it means that there might be lots of echo. I'm not sure. We can't test this, sadly, but
very difficult to hear anything.
Here's an AI avatar pigeon.
Right, let's get going.
I want to do that
Make
too.
it interesting, you two, or you might find a little something on your car if you get my meaning.
We get your meaning. There we go.
Can you hear it now?
Hopefully you got that. It worked if you
turned the volume up.
Oh, I see.
And now still couldn't hear anything. Okay.
Oh, okay. So some people are, some people aren't, but
it was Whisper GPT.
Okay. So what we're going to do is have a look at some papers, because what we're interested in this show is looking at AI and the impact it might have on the brain. Let me get my brain.
Oh right.
I removed it earlier.
Yeah, I was gonna say
for the show.
Can we?
It falls apart. It's one of these proper models that falls apart.
Oh wow.
So
wow, that's the underside. Revealing even the true you.
There we go. Everyone wants a peek at my hippocampus. So we're going to get some papers up, and we're going to talk a little bit about these papers and what it means potentially for our brains. And we've got to be honest, at the moment, we don't have enough information to have any real data. Yeah.
No, I get it, because AI has been around, but potentially hasn't been around in its current form and in its sort of, I suppose, wide usage that it's just starting to see.
Yeah.
Yes, GPT went like viral and probably is still the most viral sort of app around. But, when we say longitudinal, we also want a number of years of potentially consistent use.
And it took us a good 10 years of social media use to sort of see. Have we got there sort of, we can't see or hear anything.
Oh dear.
Hold on, folks. That's not the message we want to see. Can you hear us? Can you see us? Please tell us in the comments, because this is somewhat disturbing if you can't actually hear us or see us.
No. Is the brain abnormal? That's hilarious. So, Bill, can you hear us?
Okay, we will carry on and keep an eye on the comments.
Yes, we
there.
can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. Okay,
amazing.
okay. So some people just need to turn their volume up.
Hopefully.
They might just be trying to read subtitles, and it's not
Okay.
working.
Okay. Cool.
So we're going to look at some papers, and we're going to discuss these and see. I mean, as I was saying, it took about 10 years for social media for us to have the longitudinal studies that show that it creates dopamine addiction.
Yeah.
It's been responsible for depression and all sorts of stuff, particularly amongst teenagers. So it's like this. We probably have got 10 years of use before we understand exactly how this has impacted us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we've got some stuff to talk about here anyway.
We do indeed.
So this first, let me put this up here. This, we're having an issue with the technology.
There we go.
See, that still is not working. Isn't it funny? Oh, there we go.
There it is.
Isn't it funny how things, it works perfectly when you're practicing. And then when you're actually going live, that's when we have the problems.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So this paper here, it's called The Challenges of Our Innate Cognitive Abilities and Mental Well-Being from the Social, Cultural, and Environmental Costs of Hyperconnectivity. Because, we like titles in the world of science that just trip off the tongue that.
Yeah.
So what this paper is about is exploring how our reliance on digital devices may be altering our brain function. So we're not necessarily looking directly at AI here, but it's how our reliance on digital devices can affect us, our brain function, attention spans, and memory processes. It examines the challenges posed by automation and AI in the workplace, including job displacement and the rise of precarious gig economy work. Right. So that's what this is about. And from this, there are some quotes here that I think are quite interesting. The first one here, they're talking about UX, really. And when we are creating digital products, their quote here is from the paper: digital technology designers frequently view humans as unreliable and inefficient, at least compared to modern digital processing computers, and thus strive to give them as small a role in an automated system as possible. So you can imagine the effect that has.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of, I suppose, questioning what a person's position is within, something that they thought they were doing 8 hours a day, for example, or just going into work, and what that actually then means, and where work itself is positioned potentially differently as we go along. And you were mentioning something when we were chatting earlier about what motivation is.
Yeah, so I very often talk about motivation in the workplace and how it can be impacted by technology. And when I'm working with my clients and I'm doing talks, this is something I very often talk about. And I bring in a model that Dan Pink talks about in his book Drive, The Surprising Truth of What Motivates Us. And he says that there's 3 elements that go into motivation in the workplace. You've got autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So what we're talking about here is people who are designing digital products who are making humans less human as they give the human stuff to the technology.
Which is kind of funny when you talk about things like human-centered design. Yeah.
So if we are giving humans less responsibility here, as they're saying in their quote, strive to give them a role in the automated processes as possible, then you've got autonomy. You're removing autonomy from them because you're showing them that they've got a small role to play. Mastery, you are eliminating mastery. There's no way that they're getting better at stuff because you're handing the stuff over to a machine. And then you've got purpose, and the purpose is, what's the point?
Yeah.
What is the point?
Yeah.
So the 3 elements that go into creating motivation in the workforce, all of them are eroded by this kind of approach of creating digital products.
Yeah.
And I think as we move into the next phase really of AI is this agentic thing where we're going to give workflows
Yes.
to workflow agents.
Yes, yes.
That's removing work from humans and really puts it really plays into this, I think, and could be really quite harmful.
I think that that's where we have to be careful to not paint it with like 100% bad kind of, paintbrush and 100% great paintbrush, and be like, okay, so it's not like we enjoy every single part of our work, and potentially it's worth like breaking it down and being like, okay, when we say automation, maybe there's certain things that we do like doing, even within the automation, because, let's face it, we don't always want to be like, on top of our game, thinking. There's certain things, maybe the roteness of it, we enjoy. Certain things, right? And potentially there could be a personalization as to like, can we like decide like which bits we want help on, right? And which bits we actually don't want help on, or maybe we don't know we want help on, but eventually we might.
There's one of the things I've been talking about quite a lot recently is getting people, before we work out what points we can get AI involved, is I get people to write a list of all the things during their day that makes them go, yes.
That's nice, isn't it? It's like your little positive affirmation buddy.
and that stuff, then it's just like, AI, you're not allowed to be part of this. Or if you are, it's about helping me get more out of it.
Yes. And I think that is one of the things that has been like the basis of the way I've been sort of approaching it as a designer, which is how are we truly enhancing the humanness in us and truly sort of augmenting processes in a way. I don't necessarily want to say augmenting humans, but not necessarily cyborgian just yet.
but there is this thing that there are good humans and there's humans that suck.
Fair.
And the problem is that when we augment humans, we're augmenting both, and that's how we get the yin and yang from the technology. Is that you are also augmenting the arseholes.
Yeah, in fact, look, can you address the issue when people are using AI because they are lazy, want to cheat, or an excuse for not activating their biological intelligence?
Yes.
Ooh, that's very interesting.
So Kim, that's an absolute beauty. What's your take on this, Shama?
Well, I've been saying for a little while that we've been outsourcing our memory to Google.
Yeah.
And I think that, we were reading a paper earlier as well, where they're essentially talking about who's going to be left behind. So if you haven't already sort of flexed your muscles at, learning how to learn or learning a specific skill or getting yourself up to a certain, let's say, level, you're probably more likely to be affected or impacted. With the way that it seems we might be outsourcing even some of our, other kinds of thinking apart from memory to the way that, we're interacting with the GPT.
It's a difficult thing that we've. One of the beautiful things about generative AI is that means that humans suck at most things. All right, we're crap at most stuff. But what AI does, generative AI, is it makes everyone adequate at everything. And a lot of people, if you're really bad at something, and this is the whole thing, when people, one of the first things they tend to do with ChatGPT when they start playing with it is that they get it to write them a poem. And they look at it and they go, oh, that's incredible. Look, it's written this poem and it's done it in like 26 seconds. And oh, this is fantastic. And look, it's a poem.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I used to write poetry for the BBC. So I used to do radio for poetry shows.
Yeah.
I know a thing or two about poetry.
Yeah.
I look at the poems and I go, they are awful. They don't scan well. The rhymes aren't great. A lot of the stuff's just bleeding obvious.
Yeah.
Now, the reason for that is if you look at skill level, that if you've got very, very low skill level and you see something that's adequate, you look up at it and go, whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah.
If you've got a high skill level, you look down at it and go, that's crap.
Yeah.
And what's happening is that a lot of people who've got zero skill level will suddenly think, hey, I can do marketing. Hey, I can do social media. Hey, I can do, and because adequacy, they look at adequacy and they mistake it for excellence.
I get you.
They're basically looking at the sky, but they see the ceiling, but it's above them, and that looks great because it's above me.
And I think there's potentially a silver lining to something like that, because it could be that, for example, you're working in a team where, quite rightly, different people have different kind of passions, and because of that, they follow through and sort of upskill themselves on that for a while, right? But you're part of a team and you're trying to like connect and communicate. And if I'm no designer, but I'm trying to do what's in my brain to try and kind of show you as the designer, like what I really mean, it might be a useful aid to be like, I think this is closer to what I'm trying to communicate with you. So in some ways it might be a cool communication tool, but also maybe level out the hierarchies between people in some ways. That could be a positive silver lining to it to a certain extent, but also funny you said a thing or two about poetry. It's like when I first came at it, I was organizing a poetry festival. Right. and we did a very sensational thing, man versus machine, who's going to write the better poem. That was where it was really interesting for me, because they essentially, we choose a few keywords and we go, why don't you do it? To the metaphor machine called it at the time. I thought I'd be laughed out, literally, as you were thinking. I got stunned silence from the audience. And I was like, what? Did we get something wrong? Was there technical issues? And we had a look. Okay. Did it again. Again, stunned sort of silence. And then I heard somebody going, why didn't I think of that? Which gave me this kind of feeling that actually what's quite interesting is that the AI in this case doesn't have maybe the social inhibition of coming out with a stupid idea. Or, coming out with loads and loads of ideas, which may or may not have legs. It doesn't have that critic necessarily sitting there. And it just went bleh, right? And in the bleh, it was quite cool to see the process. And people were like, it's not great, but, it's taking it down avenues were quite interesting. And that's where that collaboration idea, I think, really started to take form. And there have been some papers looking at pure AI generated creativity and human creativity, and actually found that the combination of AI and human intelligence and creativity got us somewhere a bit further along than the two on their own. Yeah.
And I think that as people who have made a living doing creative stuff, we understand that there's kind of like the 80-20 rule. So the first part of actually getting something together is the first 20%. The thing that's the creative impulse is the further 80% is polishing that thing to make it excellent. And what happens is that people who haven't made a living as creatives or have that drive within them stop at that 20%.
Yeah.
And that's why it's adequacy. That's why a lot of the stuff is a bit crap.
Yeah.
But it is this thing that the people who are after excellence, they strive all the more towards that back end. And that's the bit that makes the difference from somebody who's a lazy dabbler and somebody who's actually a creative practitioner.
Yeah. Also, just to recognize that nothing is easy.
Yeah.
And that's also coming back to the idea of automation. It's like trying to make things easy.
Yeah.
But actually, it's creative turmoil that you have to go through, and you have to be, okay with that. And, various parts of a new thing or a new skill or job is, you learn it for a reason. It didn't just come easy, right? You have to put in that work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Brilliant. So hopefully we answered something there, Kim. Let's want to look at another paper here. Let's look at our next one here. What's our next one? Is called From Tools to Threats. A reflection on the impact of artificial intelligence chatbots on cognitive health from Frontiers of Psychology. So this is an opinion piece. So we're not saying that this comes from research, but this is a lot of scientific academic people who are bringing in things that they understand from similar areas. And they're saying that based on this knowledge, this is the impact it could have. So they coin this horrible 3-letter acronym because this is, which I've never seen before, because this is what academics like to do. They explore the potential impact of artificial intelligence chatbots that they're calling AICs. Bugger off. They're chatbots. Don't do that. AIC.
Sounds like AOC, doesn't it?
It does a bit. Yeah. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez sort of on your computer.
Our lovely outspoken.
So on cognitive health, introducing the concept of, here we go, AIC-induced cognitive atrophy.
AICICA now.
Yeah. There we go. There's another ridiculous acronym for you. But it's this idea of cognitive atrophy from people who are overusing or misusing AI tools, that we become reliant on it. And that's really what this is about. So some of the quotes here, they say, the use it or lose it brain development principle stipulates that neural circuits begin to degrade if not actively engaged in performing cognitive tasks for an extended period of time. So basically there is this thing that, I guess for old people like me, where you've got this, once you've learned to ride a bicycle, you'll be able to pick it up again. But
fun fact, I did actually forget twice.
You did? So you might see Shama on her tricycle going around
with the little guardrails.
But the people who never learned it in the first place don't build up those neural pathways. And if we have, there's two sides to it that I feel to this, that this paper seems to be getting at. There's two sides: is building up the neural pathways through the actual use, learning, failure, repetition cycle. And the other is losing the strength of the neural pathways that you've previously built up. So one of the things that we've spoken about previously is this idea of cognitive pruning or neural pruning. Could you explain a bit about that and how AI might play into that?
Well, originally, this idea of cognitive pruning, it happens in a human's life very early on. So we essentially have a burst of growth when we're born, and it really sort of accelerates around sort of age 2-ish. And at that point, that's where this idea of if you don't use it, you lose it, really comes into play. So if you haven't, I don't know, taught your child how to play, 10 instruments and speak 13 languages, it's all downhill from there. But no, I mean, it's like at that point, it's quite crucial to kind of bring in those kind of skills, because that's when pruning really, really strongly happens. But then we were also talking about how this happens to an extent, an ongoing sort of a way as we're getting older. And there's sort of two kind of points which I've heard about, which is the reorganization of, let's say, neuronal kind of networks at certain points in our growth, roughly around that 18 to 21 year time, and then again around sort of 27 time. And not only does that have an impact on what you've been mentioning, which is the neuroplasticity, is that kind of mechanism for memory and being able to also learn a skill. There's also other elements here, for example, like your personality and what you might then start suggesting an identity for yourself. Which is quite interesting. So one of the things that the paper talks about is how does that impact younger people?
Yes.
And also maybe like going back to it, people who haven't necessarily cemented that skill. Somebody, I think on the chat also said, what about learning and learning how to learn? For example. So I think, there's nuances. No 100%.
I think that what this is bringing out when it comes to education is I think that it is bringing out issues that were already there in education. For example, when you were at school, were you ever taught how to learn, how to memorize?
I think so, to be absolutely honest with you. Not to memorize.
You went to a better school than me then.
I had kind of one of those weird like photographic memories, so they never had to tell me about that stuff. I was trying to learn how to forget, some things I just don't want to know. No, but there were certain things about, I don't know, how do you do your times tables or something. It's a bit Victorian, through rote learning and stuff. But as you get older, how do you organize information and how do you make the associative kind of links? You're right. I think I probably had to figure that out myself,
I certainly, it's when we know that there are techniques like the memory palace technique and things like that. Why weren't we taught that at school? Yeah. And also I think cross linkages, right? At one point I was teaching a little bit of A-level biology and somebody literally put their hand up and went, is that the same electron as they talk about in physics? I was like, wait, how did you get to A-level? Presumably you are doing physics too. Crikey.
So that joined up thinking, that's potentially more of a pedagogical issue we've got in this country.
Yeah, so, I think just generally in the West, there is this issue with education where, well, we could do a whole podcast on that, about the fact that you've got like an hour and a half of this subject a week, but it's split into 3 half-hour sections that are shoehorned between this, and that's a terrible way of learning. You feel as if you're not achieving anything as a student. Yeah. And the teacher has to recap at the beginning of every lesson. Yeah. So you've lost a third of your lesson to recap. It's ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense.
Which is quite interesting, actually. We had a couple of questions. One about the thoughts on neurodiverse in this age of AI, and one from Bill, a little bit further out, going, what is old? I think I asked you this earlier on.
Yeah, please define old. Bill, look at me. I'm a man in his mid-50s.
Older.
That's, older.
Yeah. We're all living longer.
I had somebody. I very often send questionnaires out before I do training workshops for my clients. And I had one about 6 months ago where somebody put as a question in this questionnaire, they said, am I too late at 48 to pick up AI? And I'm like, what?
Absolutely not.
What?
Absolutely not.
Look at me. Yes, absolute nonsense. So Bill, don't.
I think there's also something to be said about transferable learning as well. So if you have picked up one musical instrument, they say it's actually easier to pick up another one, even if it's like later in life. Yeah. Or like language skills. If you know one, it might help to pick up a second and a third. So I think this idea of learning is really interesting and potentially comes into the neurodiverse question that you have.
So Bill is answering here. I'm 80. Oh. Bill, there is no need to stop learning. Go for it. Go for it, sir.
I came across this.
Thanks for joining.
This Japanese woman who's 90 taught herself how to do a games engine sort of code. And created her own game at 90.
Wow.
So
we've got another question here from Lee. Well, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the neurodiverse in this age of AI. I mean, do we have any understandings about that at the moment?
I think we have very sort of nebulous understanding of neurodiverse as well. Because, we're all on I would say on some sort of spectrum of sliding scale. So I even have a problem with the word neuronormative. We're all very individual people. Our brains are all very different, even in its sort of shape and size. We have a rough thing, but no, my brain doesn't look like this brain, or your brain probably doesn't look like this brain. And it's not just about the looks. It's also, about the experience and neuroplasticity that you're mentioning, like, what even is, right? And we have to potentially define it a bit better. So maybe a way around this is the personalization capabilities that AI might have. And also how it could potentially be a good learning companion by being like, okay, you've done this bit. Now let's do this bit. That kind of like step-by-step micro-learning way of doing things. I don't like being sort of, as you say, recapped at. I would like to know, what I don't know and what I've done correct as I go along.
It's like I'm always running experiments because I like achieving something. Yeah. I like taking the learning and putting it into practice. Yeah. Which is why last week, every single day last week, I released a new digital tool that I had built using AI.
There you go.
Nobody on LinkedIn cared about it. I didn't really get much traction for it.
I'll use it.
But yeah, I created these tools because I like to sort of take the learnings, put it into practice, see how far I can push things. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that I find, particularly when I've got my LinkedIn courses. Yeah. And last month I passed the 500,000 mark. So I've had I think 540,000 people now have taken my courses on LinkedIn, which is great. But I find that there's quite a number of people who just watch a course and they think that they've done it. They think they've fixed it. It's just like, no, you have to do.
Yeah, you have to do.
Take and put it into practice.
And much as this has been a bit debunked, like coming back to neurodiverse sort of space, people might have a bit of a preference as to sort of visual modality. spatial modality, audio modality. There might just be a bit of a preference as to how you kind of intake that in and process it. Conversely, we're doing a podcast, but I'm not very good at listening to that whilst going for a walk, because I'll literally be like, I'll just stand in the middle of the park and be like, what did they just say again? Let's just rewind that, because my brain hones in like very much to like analyzing the sound. So I do think there is a space there to kind of understand the neuroscience or of perception here, in order to think about what kinds of AI tools can help what kinds of people, and also the kinds of activities that they're about to do. So
have you played with Google's new, what do they call it, notebook?
I've heard about it. It's
amazing.
Legendary, isn't it?
I was playing with it this week with my 9-year-old, and we uploaded a document into this, and then immediately got it to create a podcast. And my daughter just couldn't believe this. It's an amazing way. She loves podcasts.
Of how to learn,
So for her, that is an incredible way to learn. Then clicked the button and immediately got a study guide, got a timeline, got all sorts of stuff. And I've got a book that's not out yet, folks. So this is for kids. This is a book of there's quite big books, you can see, and this is to help kids use AI to enhance their education, not as a cheat code, but to enhance it. So we uploaded that and got it back as a podcast, and it was just incredible. So I love the fact that something like that is so easily able to take a massive information, even some of these really turgid academic papers that we've got here, and turn it into a very easy to digest
Do you know what's really interesting about that? We used to do workshops when I was running this art, science, creative production collective called Jugular Productions, which is all about essentially helping people digest through lived visceral experience lots of this academic heady stuff. And one of the things we actually got people to do is to talk about it between each other after they'd ingested it. Like this podcast. And it's like, okay, what do I understand about it enough to be able to tell you about it, but actually embed it in a real life situation. So I think that's quite interesting, that I think this is a role play storytelling theater trick in a sense. That's been taken in there from an interaction perspective. So
I can see that we have completely shot past when we our time. We thought we were going to make this half an hour, but I'd said maybe up to 45 minutes. So I think probably what we'll do, let's, instead of looking at any more papers, let's look at a couple of questions maybe here that we've got.
So we've got...
It's perfect for dumbing down. This might be contentious. So can you read that one for me?
So AI is perfect for dumbing down very complicated looking abstracts here at Rice University into what a 5-year-old would understand. It makes me appreciate all the subjects and studies. Is dumbing down an appropriate word? Well, I'm often asked to dumb down things, but I get you. I guess it's all about lucidity, clarity, coherence in some way.
We've got this one here about VR. Have you seen the VR teachers? I taught in VR 6 months ago for the first time. So I've got here my MetaQuest 3 in here, and for the School of Communication Arts, I did a lecture, kind of workshop thing. I think it was 2 hours or something like that inside a VR environment where I had put lots of stuff up on the virtual walls. I guided people through, gave them stuff to do in the virtual environment. It was incredible. I've got to say that I absolutely loved teaching in VR, and I can't wait to do it again. So
we're going to do a whole other episode on immersive and arts, aren't we?
Why not? Absolutely. Absolutely. What else have we got here?
We've got another one slightly further up, further up than Ethel. What have we got? Practice. That's interesting.
This one here.
Yeah.
Okay. So Adam saying perfect practice makes perfect, or as we say, amateur musicians practice until they get it right. Pros practice until they can't get it wrong. Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
Do you know, it's I've got an issue with this practice makes perfect phrase, because as somebody who was a musician, practice makes better. You know?
First off, I get asked this a lot. It's like, oh, how long did it take you to learn the sitar? I'm still learning.
Yeah.
It's not something that's just done.
Ravi Shankar was still learning. He still put in hours a day in his 80s.
Yeah. But actually, this is quite interesting. Yes, at the beginning, 8 hours a day, that's the adage. But you can be more targeted as you go along, and still get as much value rather than doing, let's say mindless practice for hours. You probably won't get it actually. So being, again, this meta learning, I think, is quite interesting. And setting your task. How am I going to make this more emotional? Or
So yes, I'm relearning the bass guitar at the moment. I used to play bass guitar many years ago, and I'm relearning it just now. And the way that I'm doing it is I'm building exercises that are also very practical.
Yeah.
So it's actually, there's stuff that I could play in a song, but they are exercises that stretch my hand, get me understanding scales, getting my understanding of the fretboard.
Yes. And actually certain things where you can surprise yourself if you actually come away from it after a while and come back to it and you're like, oh, wow, this is a new kind of improvisation.
Yeah. So, right, folks, what we're going to do is we are going to say thank you very much. And Shama, we did a bit of an introduction at the beginning, but could you give a 30-second thing here about actually what it is you do? Because you're at University of Edinburgh, but also you're an entrepreneur. You've got your own product. So I'm a founder of NeuroCreate, and I've literally been looking at how can we future-proof our brains with the advent of AI from way before the GPT explosion. And I wanted to see how we can harness AI into a system that can help us and guide us through our creative processes, literally not doing the things for us. So it's deliberately not just a collaborator, but also provocateur, as I like saying it, just like you would have with a real sort of creative human collaborator, and that friction that you need in order to have that. So the Flow Create Innovator is what I'd call your creative guide. It is designed with the neuroscience of the creative process. So literally going, okay, your brain is in this particular mental state during this particular part of the stage, like research, putting together and connecting the dots to have your aha moment and then synthesizing it. So it takes you all the way through that journey. It's filled with lots of creative sort of techniques and goodies, from this sort of like fuzzy idea to having something clearer, like insights that you can then action, design assets, pitch deck, strategies, all kinds of things like that. So it gives you an output at the end. So it's what I love about it is that a lot of people think that AI it does the work for you, it does the thinking for you, and that's not what this is about. This is about using the AI thinking to activate your own brain. Yes, and I asked the questions, well, why AI in the very first place, but then going, okay, when AI at the right point, and then what AI? So it's got all your goodies in it. It's got your language models, but it's also got knowledge graphs, which is a way of hallucination depression, let's say, grounding that hallucination of the language models, and also image generation. So it's all in one kind of platform, so you don't have to go like that. So there you go. Places. Links there. You can point your phone at that. Check it out. And I'm going to be very quick. If you go along here, you can sign up for my newsletter that sends you a free prompt every Tuesday. So if you want a free prompt with a lot of silly nonsense in it as well, in your inbox every Tuesday, there you go. That's for you. But that's really it, I think, from us today. We got because of I'm Eric. What a lovely comment.
I didn't catch that. Could you try again?
That's AI on my watch there, sort of misunderstanding what's going on.
There you go. Show that one. That's nice.
This one here. Oh, thank you. This has been amazing. Please do it again. Well, we plan to do it again.
We do.
We are going to be doing this regularly. We're going to be interviewing people as well.
We are. It's not just us.
So if there's anyone you'd like us to interview, I mean, we're looking at talking to people who are authors, pop stars, TV personalities,
graphic novelists.
Graphic novelists, yes. People who are sort of hardcore thinkers in the field as well.
Academics, coders, developers, you name it. But also from the social perspective as well. And art as a whole.
So anyone that you think that we should speak to, let us know in the comments. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being beautiful human beings and joining us here, because this would have been very lonely without you. So I will put that off, and I believe now is going to play a little tune, and we say thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh yeah, I have